Station 1370 WOCA. Ocala.
All right, 27 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Thursday morning. I have my computer at home is a mini Mac. It's an Apple product, and I know it looks different on my screen than the ones we use here, the Microsoft ones. And I'm not a computer expert in any sense, but I know that some of the things that we use, we put them up in the cloud.
Yes, we do.
I don't even know what that is. And on the top of my screen on my Mac, or whatever you call the thing, there's a little cloud, a picture of a cloud, and then there's this thing circling and circling and circling and circling, and I always assume it means that everything I'm doing is being stored somewhere, someplace. I'm sure it's not in any real cloud. I'm sure it's like in Phoenix or Detroit or something, but it just does it. But yet I always say to myself, well, does this mean that I don't need something like one of those services that can restore everything in your computer? Does this mean it's all stored somewhere and I don't need to pay for something? What was that thing, that Loctite or something? One of those companies.
Something like that, yeah.
We have a guest who can answer all of our cloud questions. And as a matter of fact, at the tail end of the Veterans program we just did, Todd Lyle is also a veteran. So first and foremost, we thank him for his service. He's on the phone right now to talk about the cloud. He's a leader in cloud computing with a focus on the human element. He's a founder of Duncan LLC, which creates cloud computing service bundles, and he's written a book to help us understand this thing. And I always think I'm the only one who doesn't understand stuff, but if there's a book, that means I'm not the only one. The book is called Grounding the Cloud, Basics and Brokerages. Let's find out what he means by that. A lot to learn in a short period of time. Todd D. Lyle. Good morning, Todd.
Good morning. How are you, Larry?
Pretty good. Where are you right now?
I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. Thanks for asking.
In Cleveland. All right. How's the weather in Cleveland?
Nice fall day. The leaves are turning. They're starting to get really crisp. So those of us that picture those fall days, this is what we're having today.
Yeah, see, we missed that. When you move to Florida and you used to see that, you kind of do miss it. But anyway, so I'm a little bit jealous, and everybody who calls here says they're jealous of us. So I guess it's
that's true.
Mutual jealousy. So where is the cloud? Obviously, it's not in the sky. Where is the cloud?
It depends on who you're dealing with. Let's talk about some of the big ones. We have Hewlett-Packard, Amazon Web Services, of course, Microsoft, as everyone knows Microsoft, Cisco. These are large cloud services providers, and some of them are very user-friendly, some of them are not. We've all dealt with Microsoft, we've dealt with Apple, and of course those are two very distinct cultures as far as they're concerned. But what you have is a plethora of services that are out there. So let's talk very basically. Let's think about email, because everybody uses email. If you're in the cloud on Microsoft 365, you can request to have your data stored in the United States, or it may be stored overseas, but you will know where it's stored. Now, when you're talking about these data centers, I liken them to Fort Knox. These are hardened facilities. They're protected. They're designed from keeping the human element out, both physically and or from a cyber attack. Those organizations, Hewlett-Packard, Microsoft, Dell, they're experts at what they do. The cloud is a metaphor for an infrastructure, or what I call an ecosystem. And it's ultimately everything from the iPhone I'm holding up to my ear to talk to you right now, Larry, to all the equipment, the landlines, the hardware, the software. It's an amalgam. And it is, again, it's very physical. That's why I call it grounding the cloud. And if you look at the cover of the book, it's actually the electricity is coming up rather than down from the clouds, the natural clouds. So that's what it is. These are hardened facilities.
Okay.
There's software involved. But the cloud is, again, it's an amalgam of products and services that is provided to the consumer. And eventually, it will be consumed just like we do our water and our electric. And if you think about it as a utility, you can see where prices are going to continue to get driven down, yet the computing value is only going to increase.
Okay, so the thing that's spinning on the top of my screen is not automatically sending something to the cloud. What is it doing?
Well, it depends on what, again, you said you have an iMac. It depends on its thinking. And it might say it's transferring that information to the cloud. And if the way you have it set up, if you're on iCloud, it will be sending information to your, think of it as a giant apartment complex in New York City. You're one of those apartments, and it's very safe and secure. It's protected from the outside. You're peering into your data when you're in the cloud.
Okay.
So you're not actually storing it on the device. You are looking at it just like you would watch television. You're not actually, it's not tangible, but you can manipulate it wherever it happens to be living.
So right now, the computer that I have sits on my desk, or in the one here at work sits under the desk. In the future, will that piece of equipment not even be necessary because the whole thing will be up in the cloud?
Not necessary now. But the beauty of what's happening, and of course, Microsoft, they've kind of been late to the game, which is ironic because they were talking about it back in 1999 and such. But to answer your question, you can use antique equipment, very basic processing speeds, and access the cloud and get the most robust services that are out there again, because the hardware in the machine that's running it is powered by HP or Dell or Amazon. And then you can have a dumbed down terminal or a smartphone. It doesn't really matter because that's your portal to look into that database, scratch that file where your information is saved, that data center.
Okay, now nobody's going to steal my nude photos because nobody wants to see me. But how come when we see these stories in the news about, well, that was the big one. That's the one that got our attention because it's pretty women, right, basically.
Jennifer Lawrence, absolutely.
But how did this happen? And the fact that somebody can take photos, does that mean they could take, sensitive information?
Absolutely. But here's the thing. With anything else that we do in our life, we have to accept some responsibility, and we have to use some common sense. If you read the stories of Jennifer Lawrence, in fact, Vanity Fair has a cover story. There she is, looking very buxom. But she's a target. Because she's a celebrity, she sells sexuality for a living, people are going to go after her. So she should have used a little risk management and said, I'm going to use a password generator. And I'm going to, for example, if you go out to Norton.com, that's a free password generator, and it creates at random something that's going to be pretty much impervious to being hacked.
Oh, really?
Again, Jennifer's yes, sir. Jennifer's a celebrity, again, so she's being targeted.
Right.
You and I, yes, somebody could come after us, but it's the same psychology. If somebody's coming after you or me, Larry, it's usually somebody we know, and that's an issue whether you're living in your house or if you're living on the moon. They're going to get you unless you use safeguards. Again, Norton.com, it's a free password generator. And to go one step further, there's an organization called KeePass. It's KeePass. That is a password generator, but it's also a vault, and it encrypts it. So you have essentially, it's like your black book from the old days. You got one number to get in, and then once you're in there, all of your passwords, which you probably don't remember, are saved, and you can access them and use them to open up your various tools.
Well, since there are different passwords, are there also different levels of clouds?
Well, that's a good question. Ultimately, you have three types of clouds. I'm a proponent for the public cloud, and again, I define the public cloud as the large multinational organizations that are providing cloud services, again, Hewlett Packard, Dell, Microsoft, and you go out to that, and everything you do, the infrastructure, is public. So from a business vantage point, for the finance people that are listening, you take a CapEx and you make it an OpEx. Instead of a capital expenditure buying the hardware, Larry, you mentioned again, that server or software that's in your office or at home, that's going to go away. And for companies, they have to amortize that and take a loss. Moving forward, when you use it as a utility, that's an operational expense. So that's right off the top. Right off the top. You don't it gives you much more value for your money. Your money's not tied up and being amortized on a clunky piece of equipment. So you have your public cloud. You have your private cloud. You'll hear a lot about the private cloud right now because we're concerned, we're worried about security, And private cloud purveyors will tell you, we've got you covered. Well, at the end of the day, they're data centers just like the ones that HP have or Microsoft, and that's a private cloud. But here's the thing. Technically, if you buy a private cloud, you are still responsible for the maintenance of the equipment. When it gets old, you have to replace it. So you're really taking the traditional IT server out of your house and putting it into a private data center, and they call it a private cloud. You haven't transferred your capital expense. Moreover, let the majors do it. Amazon Web Services is going to do a far better job at getting us computing power, pennies on the dollar, than some of the private companies. So you have your public cloud, private cloud, and then what you have, and you'll see for the next 10 to 15 years, is a scenario called a hybrid cloud. And that's essentially taking some of the traditional IT model. Let's say you have a line of business application that is on your server there in your office, and it's not going to be in the cloud. The developers aren't going to, it's not a big enough market to justify having it turned into a SaaS. So you're going to use partially what you have on site, and then the rest is going to be in the cloud, and that's essentially what they call a hybrid.
Todd, we need to take a little break. I have so many questions. I feel like I'm 2 steps behind everybody else with this, and I hope I'm not alone with that, because the questions deserve answers, whether it's from me or somebody else. We'll take a little break and be right back.
Are you tired of not using your home's outdoor space for entertaining or relaxation because of all the bugs and leaves? Consider adding a beautiful screen room or glass enclosure. We are Superior Aluminum and Design, a family-owned and operated business with 20 years experience in the aluminum industry, and we are accredited by the Better Business Bureau. If you appreciate superior workmanship, call Superior Aluminum and Design at 817-8058 or visit us on the web at superiораluminumdesign.com.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. It'll be pleasant today with plenty of sunshine at a high of 85 to 89. Tonight, mainly clear, the lows ranging from the upper 60s in a few inland spots to about 73 along the coast. Tomorrow, another nice warm day with sunshine, the high 86 to 90. And for Saturday, partly sunny, high 85 to 89. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Good credits, bad credits. It's none of our business because we're not an auto dealer. We're not a bank. We're not your mother. We're OcalaForSale.com. Marion County's marketplace for cars, trucks, and SUVs. We've got thousands of sellers standing by to take your call. No middleman. But hurry, don't walk, don't run. Just sit down and log on to OcalaForSale.com. Prices and inventory change daily. Offer does not include dealer upcharge. Undercutting, rust-proofing, factory surcharge, or delivery fee. See website for details.
All right, we're talking about the cloud. Thank you for waiting through the break. If you know what the cloud is, how to use it, and how to protect yourself when you use it, you are 18 steps ahead of me. If not, you might want to get the book called Grounding the Cloud, Basics and Brokerages. I got to ask about that word, brokerages. Todd D. Lyle wrote the book. He's a leader in cloud computing with a focus on the human element, and I want to know what he means by that as well. Todd, thank you for waiting through the break. The one thing I guess I'm still not clear about, and before we get into the things I was just expressing curiosity about, is do I have stuff in the cloud that I don't know, and how do I find out what's there if I do?
Well, the chances are you do. Let's start out with something fun. Do you use Netflix?
Yeah.
Or Amazon?
Yeah.
Okay. Netflix, that is the best example of the cloud coming together, converging, forces coming together, forces converging to allow us to consume a movie and have fun. So, yes, you're using cloud services right there with Netflix. If you're banking online, you're using cloud services. The chances are your town, especially since you're in an academic area, chances are that your electric meter and or your gas meter are related to the cloud.
Really?
So that nowadays, police, we talked about Ferguson, Missouri, and that whole disaster up there, but the cameras that police will wear, that data goes directly to the cloud. So what's happening is we're very quickly jumping from the old IT model to where we do a lot of manipulation to where, due to the cloud and due to the bandwidth that's increasing internationally, we have a lot of things that are turning machine to machine. It's like the Nike device or the iWatch, and it takes physical information, what's the diagnostics. That information is taken and sent right up to a cloud and consumed into a piece of software as a service, and that can be accessed via a doctor or yourself to track chronic issues with patients.
Now,
so
can we?
Yes, you're in the cloud, and you probably don't know it.
So, can we find out what information is there and delete it if we don't want it there?
Again, if you're doing banking online, if you've done something and opened up a Dropbox account, let's use that as an example. It's free, and you put a folder up there. Yes, you should know that you opened a Dropbox account. But let's segue here. There's two things that you had mentioned after the break. The human element,
right,
which is you and me. I'm an aviator. You had mentioned I'm a veteran. I'm a Black Hawk pilot, former Black Hawk pilot.
Wow.
So our factors, the human factors, are a big deal, and that's kind of what led me to this human element that I coined. It's the environment in which we're working. It's the personalities that we deal with, and then it's the abilities that we bring, our strengths and weaknesses. So it's another way of looking at human beings and how they interact. We're the soft side of technology. So you just mentioned, how do I know if it's up there? Well, here's the thing. And this is a reason that a brokerage is very useful, either for an enterprise or even for small businesses and individuals like Jennifer Lawrence. A brokerage is going to go out to the marketplace. And I mentioned email earlier and we got off it. Let's say you want to have email and remote access to your information. And of course we want file sharing because you and I want to be able to collaborate together. We, for example, at my organization went out and we put a bundle together. We've been in this business since 2007. And our bundle is from Rackspace. We go to Rackspace to get the Exchange server from Microsoft. And then we go out to Amazon Web Services and we use some of their elastic compute services for backup. And then we use a product called Jungle Disk for backing up the backup. And then so you have 4 or 5 vendors. Then I go to Dell and I get my SPLA, which is essentially a licensing agreement through Microsoft, but I get it through Dell. Are you confused yet?
Yes. I'll be honest with you.
Wonderful.
No, I am very confused. Yeah. So the book helps me understand this. By the way, I just went to your website, groundingthecloud.org, if you want to go to the website. Gosh, it looks like I need to read the book. I think I'd be better off if I understood this a little bit. I feel, you know what I feel like? I feel the same way I felt when the internet first started.
Mm-hmm. Great corollary.
Yeah, because I grasped it eventually, But now
here's the beauty of it, Larry. You don't need to grasp it. You need to trust that Microsoft or Hewlett Packard are going to do right by the consumer. And that is, just a minute, sweetheart. That is my little boy just walked in the room.
Oh, how old is he?
He's 2.5, and he's looking for Daddy wants an apple. But at any rate, to get back to it, the human element, the brokerage, cloud services, there's a plethora of services that are out there. The broker brings it together and is able to serve it up. You use a metaphor of a kitchen. We take the recipe, we cook it up, and we allow you to consume it. Whether you're a 65-year-old individual living in Boston, Massachusetts, or you're a 23-year-old techie living in Silicon Valley, we bundle the services as a brokerage, and then we provide one throat to choke. If you have an issue and you're of the ilk of picking up the telephone because you're in that 50 or 60 age group, you want to talk to a human being, you want to talk to somebody in your community, that's what you're going to get when you deal with a brokerage, a reputable brokerage. So you have that.
So when I listen to music like iTunes or like the Amazon Music, I have a Kindle Fire. The Kindle Fire, for all intents and purposes, is a slow computer for me. I mean, I can kind of do the same stuff. It's just I'm slower. I don't know if it's slower, but I'm slower because I can't type on it like you can. And we're in that 50 to 60 range, by the way, more like 60.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in the 50s, so.
Oh, really? Wow, with a 2-year-old. Well, good for you.
Nice.
So,
yeah.
Well, and good for you for knowing this stuff about the cloud. I was thinking you were a really young guy if you knew about the cloud.
Well, I spent some time at Microsoft back in at the turn of the 1999, 2000 time frame. And at that time, they were talking about this thing called the cloud. And that's really where my passion for this came. It's from one of the giants. So I watched it, and when it started to rise, the tide rised, I got into it in 2007.
So this has implications for business?
Oh, yes. It has business, education, not-for-profit. It's essentially, think of it this way. You've got your water, you've got your electric, and now you're going to have your computing. And that transition is going to take some time. We talked earlier about security.
Yeah.
And I want to again remind people that we, as the user or the consumer, have to accept some responsibility, but we don't have to become technical experts. That's why brokerages exist. Companies like Rackspace, they are phenomenal with their customer service. They're going through a little bit of growing pains right now. But they answer the phone on the first or second ring, and that's phenomenal. And that's what you and I are going to need.
That's what I love.
If we want to consume those services. Absolutely. And for the kids that are going to go out there and aren't going to talk to anybody, the wikis, the resources, the knowledge bases are out there, so that that 25-year-old that grew up with this can go out and get the answer they need lickety split.
Robin and I have, we're in addition to doing radio, we do music, and we have music on a couple of different things. One of them is called SoundCloud. I have no idea what it is. It's just what it's called. But we've had a couple of issues with SoundCloud that we needed to have some help, some tech support. You call SoundCloud, and I'm not just trying to promote them, I'm just telling you, I get somebody on the phone like... maybe there's a 3-minute wait. I'm on hold with music, and then somebody comes and chats to me, right away knows who I am, has the information in front of them. My bank here in town doesn't do that. My bank here in town, I'm a runaround thing. There's no option to get a real person. You hit the 0 3 times or whatever. You bang, 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 trying to get that 0 to get somebody. It is really frustrating, and I don't know if it's because I'm old and I'm not supposed to. I don't know, but I love the fact that I love the fact that some of these bigger, more vast organizations can just pick up the phone and chat with me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have to do the hand-holding at this point, or we're not going to make the transition. And here's a realistic issue: the small businesses can't afford to do this. To lay something down at a universal level, to literally use the grid, the internet as it is, you have to have the masters of the universe, the companies that we know, the Fortune 500. It's an imperfect world, but they do have policies and processes and procedures and work very hard to make sure that our information is safe and secure. Again, Jennifer Lawrence, had she known, and she should have known, her PR rep should have told her, hey, you're going to be a target. So think about this. Use Norton's password generator, which is free, or use KeyPass, or use any other. Use something and then store it properly. And then all you have to do is remember one password. Don't make it your birthday.
Larry had a news story this morning stating that the FCC wants to regulate the internet. If that succeeds and they are in charge of the whole internet, will SoundCloud have different regulations?
Well, that's if they regulate it, that's going to change everything. Net neutrality is very important. Net neutrality. We have to have the ability for everyone to get the same highway. If I start monitoring and throttling the bandwidth, and I'm giving someone that has more economic strength than another, I'm giving them that greater highway. Now, keep in mind, I'm talking about controlling the public internet. Private highways, private fiber optics, that's all cool. You lay that stuff that you deserve to have it if you build it. But for those of us that use the public infrastructure, it must remain open. The internet, that is. See,
well, gosh, too bad we didn't have you this morning because we didn't know how to stand. I didn't know what my opinion was on that story. I mean, I looked at it like this. FCC regulates what we do here. It's never been a problem for me. I mean, I have a few words I can't say. Other than that, everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's an open source world, guys. If you look at Hewlett Packard, for example, they're embracing OpenStack. And OpenStack is essentially the word. It's open, and it allows for development by third parties. We've all watched our cousins and our brothers and sisters that have gone into IT, and it's a very proud community. These are bright people that do this. And the idea has always been, put it out there, make it, open up the recipe book, and give people the chance to do it. But if they don't choose to open the recipe book on their own while it's there, they can go to a restaurant, in this case a brokerage, and get the services that they need. Again, unified billing, unified management, service level agreement management. The service level agreement is essentially making sure that the meter is up and that bandwidth is wide enough for you to get what you need.
Well, if you've been listening to Todd through this interview and every single question you've ever had about the cloud has been answered, then good for you. For me, I'm still confused. The book is obviously something I will need. The book is called Grounding the Cloud, Basics in Brokerages. It's written by Todd D. Lyle. He's been on the phone with us for the last half hour. And I see on your website, groundingthecloud.org, that it's available on Amazon. Is that the best way to get it? Just go to Amazon or to your website?
Go to Amazon. Click on that big bar that says "Buy Book on Amazon."
Yeah.
I love
Buy the book on Amazon.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for your service again as a veteran. Congratulations on being a new daddy, and good luck with the book, Grounding the Cloud. It's going to help me. I know that. Todd, thank you so much.
You. Have a great day, guys.
Great interview. We'll take a little break. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala.